Okay, so in the previous exercise we have seen definitions of ordered pairs in terms of set theory, and we have also shown that according to that definition the Cartesian product of two sets is actually a set. So a similar thing we are going to do here, but for ordered n tuples where n is any natural number and n-fold Cartesian product of sets. So let us see how the definition goes in this case. So an n tuple is defined to be a surjective function. So unlike an ordered pair that we have defined as a set, an n tuple is defined as a surjective function from the set of first n positive natural numbers into some set x. So it's a function whose range is an arbitrary set x. So this x can be any set from which we actually want the components of this n tuple to come. So different ordered n tuples are allowed to have different ranges. So the size of the range actually does not depend on n. The only thing is that it must have all the components that we want x to have. Then we also write, since now x is a function, so it will have an output at this input I. So that is denoted by x suffix I, which is the ith component, which is going to be the ith component of the n tuple. You can understand. And also write the function x itself as this n tuple. This is our usual notation for our n tuple. Now using this definition, we have to verify that two n tuples are equal if and only if their corresponding components are equal. And also we have to show that if we are given an n tuple of ordered n tuple of sets, then their Cartesian product that we have defined in definition 357, that is also actually a set. So that's what we are required to do. So let us see the solution. So we first of all have to show this. Okay. First assume that these two n tuples are equal. Okay. Now note that this equality means, since n tuples have been defined as functions, so this equality means that these two functions are equal. This means that the functions and are equal, and hence have equal outputs at I for all I lying between 1 and n. That simply means, what is the output of this function at I? That is xi. Okay. So xi has to be equal to, the output of this function at I is yi for all I lying between 1 and n. So one half of this claim is true. It's true. Okay. Conversely, assume that xi is equal to yi for all I lying between 1 and n. Now we have to prove that these two functions are equal as functions. For that we not only need equality of outputs at the same input, but we also need to make sure that they are actually equal as functions, that is, they have the same range. Note that here we are not mentioning the range, so the range can be anything. We have to prove that they have the same range. So for that we have to first of all say, assume some ranges for these functions. Note one more thing before I wrap this up, that by definition all n tuples are surjective functions. Okay, they are onto functions. Keep that in mind. So let x be our function xi, and let this be a function from a domain is fixed. We already know what domain is. It's the set of the first n positive natural numbers, and range say is x. This I am assuming, and like that let y denote this function yi. Here also domain is just this one. And let the range in this case be y. Okay. We now have to prove that x is equal to y, as functions x and y are equal. Okay. Now there is a trivial case. Should I have to consider that case separately? It's the case where n can be 0. When n is 0, this set is the empty set, this set is also the same thing, the empty set. So the function we are considering, both the functions will be empty function. Now, okay, so if I have empty function, then for that function to be surjective, these two sets also should be empty. So they are automatically equal, and the two empty functions are actually the same function. So that way that case is handled. The question is, do I need to consider that case separately? Let us just go through the solution, and if the need arises, we will address it then. So now our aim is to first of all show that x is equal to y. Let x be a, okay, I cannot take x because I have already taken x. Okay, let a be any element in x. Since x is surjective, a is equal to xi for some I lying between 1 and n, where you have to understand that this I is a natural number, nothing else. Okay, so a is equal to xi. Then a is equal to xi. According to the given condition, xi is equal to yi for all I. So this is equal to yi, and yi, because yi is the image of y at the input I, so this belongs to y. So any element in x is also in y. Thus x is a subset of y. Similarly, using the fact that y is surjective, one can prove that y is also a subset of x. Hence, x is equal to y. So both the functions have the same range. Combine that with this condition and you get the fact that the functions are equal. Thus, from the assumption or hypothesis, we should say, for all I lying between 1 and n, we get x is equal to y. As functions they are equal, and so as ordered entuples also they are equal. So that is the first part of the exercise. Now we have to show that if we are given an ordered entuple of sets, then their Cartesian product is actually a set. Okay, but what about that thing that I was talking about? Do I have to separately consider the case when n is equal to 0? No, because here there is no problem. We encountered no problem in showing this, and this argument, this series of steps, this is independent of the value of n. So we don't need that. Case is automatically subsumed in this, that is inside this, included in this. So now we will show that the product of n sets is actually a set. Okay, so by definition 357, now let xi be an ordered entuple of sets okay, be an ordered entuple of sets. So first what we will do, we will consider this by the axiom of union the set B, which is the union of all the xi's exists. Exists means this collection is a set, such a thing exists. So by the axiom of power set, the set, this set exists where A is the set of the first n positive natural numbers. If you recall the axiom of power sets, what it says is that if we are given two sets A and B, then the collection of all functions with domain A and range B is also a set. That's what we denote by this symbol, B to the power A or B suffix A. So now our domain is this set and range is the union, and union itself is a set that is coming from the axiom of union, axiom 310, I think, if I remember it correctly. So by the axiom of specification, the following set exists. And that is this set. So what we have done here, in B to the power A, we have all functions with domain A and range B. From among them, we are collecting those functions X whose ith image, whose image at the input I belongs to the set Xi, and that collection will form a set, a subset of B to the power A. And this collection, the fact that this collection is a set, that follows from the axiom of specification. And you can see from our definition of n-fold Cartesian product that actually this is the Cartesian product of the sets Xi. So by definition, finally we can write this. By definition 3, 5, 7, the above set is nothing but this Cartesian product. So that's how we prove that the Cartesian n-fold Cartesian product of sets is actually a set. So here the solution ends. Okay, so can you now see what will happen when n is 0? When n is 0, there is 0 tuple, only one set. Why do I say that there is only one 0 tuple? See, according to our definition, a 0 tuple is a function whose domain is the empty set, because here n has to be 0. So the domain is the empty set. So we have denoted 0 tuple by this symbol. Domain is empty set, and because by definition of an n tuple, such a function has to also be surjective. So I cannot take an arbitrary set here. Surjectivity forces me to take the empty set itself. So this is the only 0 tuple or empty tuple possible according to this definition. Okay. So now what happens if you have 0 here? If n is equal to 0, then the only n tuple is available is the 0 tuple. So the Cartesian product that you have here will have only the 0 tuple. So that's what in fact we have mentioned it also. After this definition 357, we mentioned the special case where we have this. If you remember, when all the xi's, all the sets are equal, we used a slightly different notation for our Cartesian product xn. When you have x0, then it is not the empty set, but it is the singleton set consisting of the zero tuple. It's a special case which is slightly weird if you really look at it, but nevertheless it's logically correct. Okay, so there the solution ends. Now we look at the third one. So now the problem of the Cartesian product of two sets being a set and also the Cartesian product of n sets being a set, these problems have now been solved and the questions have been addressed positively. Yes, they are sets, and that has been shown without any logical doubt. So now we can go to some simple problems involving the concept of Cartesian product itself. Exercise 3. Show that the definitions of equality of ordered pairs and ordered n tuples obey the reflexivity, symmetry and transitivity axioms. So first you take the definition of equality of two ordered pairs. You show that it's reflexive, that an ordered pair is equal to itself according to that definition. Then you show that it's symmetric. If two ordered pairs are equal, if one of them is equal to the other, then that other is also equal to this one, and so on. So this is not very difficult, and this I leave to you as a homework. Okay, so do it yourself and we move on. Let A, B, C be sets show that A cross B union C is equal to A cross B union A cross C. And the same thing is true with intersection and difference. A cross B difference C. Difference tau is using this symbol. If you want, you can write like this also. If you are more familiar with this one, both mean the same thing. One can of course prove similar identities in which the roles of the left and right factors in the Cartesian products reversed. That is, instead of having A on this side, you can have A on that side also in all of these. So there is a sameness to these three identities. So what I am going to do, I am going to prove only this one involving difference. You do the rest. Okay, they are somewhat easier than this difference. Actually the same thing, but still. So we want to show that these two sets are equal. Same old technique. You assume one element in this set, you show that it belongs to this, and then conversely also. We have, and we are going to do it both the sides at once. Note that on both sides we have Cartesian products. So the general element that we take in any one of them, that is going to be an ordered pair. Say we take an ordered pair in this set, then this implies X belongs to A and Y belongs to B minus C. Y belongs to B and Y does not belong to C. And we can write this whole thing implies X belongs to A and Y belongs to B, and X belongs to A and Y not belonging to C. Okay, so if X belongs to A and Y belongs to B, then by the definition of Cartesian product of two sets, X comma Y belongs to A cross B and X belongs to A and Y does not belong to C. So X comma Y does not belong to A cross C. Because for this to happen, I mean, if x comma y has to be in A cross C, then x must belong to A and y also must belong to C, which is not the case. And finally, from this, you get, using the definition of difference of two sets, it belongs to the first set and does not belong to the second set. So that means it belongs to their difference in this order. Okay, so every element in this set is again an element in this set. Now we go in the reverse direction. You have taken an element here. That means it belongs to A cross B and it does not belong to A cross C. Now x comma, so that means I have this implication. This implies this. Now this implies what? X belongs to A and x belongs to B. What does this imply? X comma y not belonging to A cross C. Had x comma y been in A cross C, we would have x belonging to A and y belonging to C. That is not the case. So that means this statement is not true. This implies that this statement is not true. Now this is a conjunction, a simple statement and another simple statement. So that means both of them cannot be true. At least one of them is false. From here we have this, x belongs to A and y belongs to B. So x belongs to A. So this part of the conjunction is already true. So that means this must be false. So that's why x belongs to A and y does not belong to C. So combining this and this, we indeed have y not belonging to C. So this also implies this, and then you can pretty much see that we can go backwards further. You can write this statement more compactly like this: x belongs to A and y belongs to B and y does not belong to C, which implies y belongs to B minus C, and then this implies this. So any element in each of the sets belongs to the other set. So each one of them is a subset of the other. Thus, A cross B minus C is a subset of A cross B minus A cross C, and the reverse containment is also true. And so we have equality. The other two identities also have to be proved just like this. Okay, so I end the solution here itself, although it is incomplete. Okay, so next we come to a similar problem, but slightly different. We now have, instead of 3 sets, we have 4 sets. Let these be sets. Show that A cross B intersection C cross D is equal to A intersection C cross B intersection D. Is it true that you can replace intersection by union, by difference? Are those things true? A cross B union C cross D is equal to A union C cross B union D. Again, is it true that A cross B minus C cross D is equal to A minus C cross B minus D?